Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Super Prime UK with your Super Prime valuation specialists, me Rob Cohen.
Myself, James Wild.
Hope you're all well. What a great week it's been. Sentiment picking up, activity picking up. Great session at Oxford Brookes University last week. Really want to thank you all for that. Really pleased with the great engagement, the great Q&A, and for the students or universities out there who want to hear more about valuations, Super Prime UK, MJ Group, please reach out. Really love that kind of work. James, hope you're well.
Yeah, okay, thanks Rob. Yes, I don't want to start with the football. What a weekend.
Let's go straight into the football. Great weekend for some, not so great for others, yeah. James, where do you want to start?
Well, I think the 7-0 Liverpool win at Manchester United. Half time I thought was pretty even. Only at 1-0. I think United had the better of the first 40 minutes, certainly better chances, slightly behind on the stats, possession, but the second half performance, I couldn't believe it. I was watching, and each time Liverpool attacked, it just looked like they were going to score another. So I haven't seen a performance of a Premier League team like that for some time, whereby they've just completely lost their heads, down tools, and stopped playing, really.
Yeah, I think the question out there to all of you is, a week ago we were saying United are back. This is the first time post-Fergie where they look to have reached the previous heights and they were going to be competitive at the highest level following the Barcelona victory, the cup win against Newcastle. And now the question maybe is there a chance that Liverpool are back? Are Liverpool going to reach the unbelievable levels that they achieved last season? And is this the return of Liverpool and the turning point?
I don't know. Liverpool have got a long way to go to even make Champions League football. I think they're about 7 points behind Man United as it currently stands. Both played 25 games, I believe. So they've really got to get themselves above your Newcastle and Spurs before they make any inroads. Trent said that the only other week he gave up on their title challenge, but I think it was over prior to that.
Yeah.
But no, I stopped short on Manchester United of ever saying they were title contenders this year. But good to win a cup, Carabao Cup, and also have a bit of a cup run in the Europa League. So positive. Couldn't quite overcome Barcelona at the Nou Camp, so I don't think we've ever done that still. But we've got a trophy this season, so I think overall it's a successful season for Manchester United if they can get top four.
And quickly, other end of the table, I know we've got a lot of listeners, Leeds, West Ham, Everton, Nottingham Forest, a lot of watchers who support those teams. How do you see that one?
Well, it's interesting. In the bottom three in the last 5 games, none of them are on a winless run. They each have one win in the last 5 games. So those teams at the bottom, they're all picking up points. It's just a case of who's going to be able to hit a run of form, really. I still think Nottingham Forest up in 14th. I feel like that they could still get dragged into the relegation fight. Bournemouth, Southampton, we'll see about those two. We'll see whether James Ward-Prowse can fight his way and Southampton's way out the bottom 3. Everton might have turned a corner with Sean Dyche, though.
I think Southampton and Bournemouth are possibly going down, and I think anyone from 6 above that. So we'll have to see what happens there. Okay, let's move on to the data. Lots of activity, lots of updates. What do you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So since we last spoke and hosted the show, in terms of the sold figures, we've had a bit of an upturn, Rob. So last couple of weeks, 107, 113 in terms of the data. So we've breached the 100 mark for a couple of weeks running, but by a small margin. So I think that's obviously positive. As we're saying, more activity in the market, and also in terms of instruction levels and volumes, these have picked up 355 and 339 the last couple of weeks, with a good pipeline of under offer properties of 215 and 232 for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, keep saying it, sentiment is improving week by week. We're hearing it from agents, lawyers, conveyancers. It's what we're seeing as valuers in the marketplace. And on that basis, we hope to be reporting upturns, nominal upturns, but upturns at the same time of increased activity. And every time we see that, we will share it with you. So good sentiment on the ground, improved sentiment on the ground, and that will in turn show in the numbers with the increased activity.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Sticking with residential property, obviously, big news last week or so, the large repossession in Regents Park. Obviously, Rob, when the market turns and global economic conditions also begin to impact on the residential market, it often leads to a bit of a spike in repossessions. It is certainly something which we've seen in the last couple of quarters sort of across the board in the residential market. And like I say, the latest of this is the on the Inner Circle Regents Park mansions, Rob. I've done a bit of research. I've seen the property. It comes with a modest cottage, about 900 square feet, Rob, and then obviously the main house, just under 21,000 square feet. So it's being brought to the market with a couple of agents currently with a reported guide price of £250 million. And from my calculations, this would break back to around £12,000 a square foot, Rob, with obviously some capital expenditure required to probably improve that internally, and any obviously works of further upgrading which might be required. Who are the buyers for this type of real estate asset, Rob?
Yeah, I think following Christine Candy's 104 million Cambridge Terrace acquisition, such a Regents Park property could associate some interest.
Yeah, he's got a track record. They're obviously just being around the corner, and I don't know, maybe fancy another battle with the Camden Council over the garden, possibly.
Yeah, always a good battle with all of the councils in London when it comes to that association.
Yeah, and aside from this, Rob, any other sort of buyer sector, buyer profile?
I think historically, in such a prestigious super prime location, you go right up the scale to royalty and ultra high net worth overseas investors. You go into the real upper echelons of buyer power across the world. So I'd say only a few names it would go into that pool, and I think it will be really interesting to see how that trades out and how it performs. Yeah. I think historically, and I think we've talked about this, and you're going to go into a bit more detail now, that when such interest or assets do come to market, people do want discounts and a deal, and it just remains to be seen how competitive the market is going to be and at what level to determine what price.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen many of the Regents Park villas trade in the last few years. I mean, in terms of this particular repossession asset, it was only the second villa built in Regents Park, so one of the originals, and it occupies such a prime position there, just off where the boating lake is there. So quite a private position in the park. Like you say, Rob, we're going to have to see where this one ends up. Obviously, guided around £250 million. Most expensive property ever to trade in the UK, Rutland Gate at 205 million. So I have to wait and see if it breaches that record there and continues the trend which we've seen in the last couple of years of super prime houses in London performing exceptionally well.
Yep.
Just in terms of some other repossessions, Rob, I mean, the last couple of years, we've seen a few, obviously, not at this level, but in terms of prime repossessions, it's not quite as uncommon as people may expect. Obviously, we've dealt with a couple down Pembridge Square, 25 million, Southways Estate over in Guildford, that sort of just early 20s sort of mark. So these types of estates and houses do occasionally get repossessed and obviously then subsequently trade. So it's not quite as unheard of as you might expect in that sort of prime and super prime sector.
Yeah, on that note, James and I have been doing the tours of the banks and the lenders and the funds, providing high-level data and intel in this space. And one of the reoccurring themes has been the repossession receivership space, that we're seeing an upturn now. Banks and lenders are starting to make key decisions about moving forward and taking possession of defaults. And I think this year is going to be a strong market and a lot of activity in that area. Anyone that wants a private presentation or market update with this intel and data from myself and James, please feel free to reach out. We've had some really good feedback on everything we've done so far this year, and we'd be more than happy to help the banking and lending community.
Yeah, just in terms of retail property, we'll always try and bring you something across all sectors of the market. In a slight boost to the retail high street, Starbucks have said they plan on opening a further 100 outlets in the UK. There's going to be certainly a requirement there for another 100 sites there. I know Starbucks, they have closed sort of quite a number in the last 18 months or so, Rob, but I think it's positive, certainly for the high street. A lot of competition out there for coffee shops, particularly that among those sort of independent versus the franchise stores. But I think, positive for the high street all in all.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've been watching closely how Starbucks have been closing unit after unit after unit, followed by Le Pain Quotidien, who are also going down the same path. And it's interesting that Starbucks are reversing that trend now. So I wonder whether they're looking to take advantage of maybe more competitive pricing rents in the high street to facilitate their growth or return to the market, having previously paid quite high premiums for very strategic prime locations.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the other sort of fastest growing sort of franchised coffee shop cafes are at the moment, Rob. I know sort of Ollie and Steen seem to have expanded absolutely everywhere the last couple of years, and that sort of followed on from Gale's fairly rapid expansion as well. So I'm not sure. It's also interesting to monitor these companies and their sort of expansion plans and how sustainable that is over a period.
Yeah, one of the big news is from last week is Gale's are looking to do drive-bys, and that's a really interesting challenge to your Costa drive-bys and your Starbucks drive-bys, and that's an interesting new entrance into that space as well. So let's see how that goes.
Obviously, we saw Carluccio's as well, rapid expansion, and then obviously that didn't have quite the sustainability there. But that's just an example, one that didn't quite work out. But I think all in all, Rob, I think the high street is looking a little bit more positive in terms of the sentiment and take-up of units. Just a quick note, the Monetary Policy Committee, Rob, meets end of the month, 23rd of March on the Thursday. I have to wait and see if there's going to be another final interest rate rise there, whether it be a 0.25% or 0.5%. It's been all 0.5% increments recently, so I have to see what happens there. Any sort of prediction or comments there, Rob?
Yeah, I think we're looking at a 0.25 point increase this time, and it will possibly be the last increase before a reverse later on in the year. So I think that's what the markets have built in, and let's see if the markets are right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously inflation has dropped on the last two sets of data, so some positivity there, but it's still at a relatively harmful level to the economy. So it's not going to be until the inflation reduces below in the region of sort of 5% before I think we get that interest rate reduction, which might be towards the end of the year. Hopefully, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm going to be at MIPIM next week. Please feel free to reach out, DM me privately. Diaries are getting busy. I'd love to meet up with as many of you as possible, so please reach out. MIPIM next week, really excited to go there and see you all. And we will be back after MIPIM to report on that monetary policy in 2 weeks' time. Thanks everyone, thanks for all your support, and we will see you next time on Super Prime UK. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks very much, everyone.